Welcome back to my show, this Professor Iyer's show on the defense issue. Thank you all for the time that we have given, and I continue with my question, which was left. And Chanand Saab was actually briefing us in the last part, the challenges related to the ordnance factory issues. And I want Chanand Saab to continue from where he left last time. Manoj Chanand Saab.
So what I was saying in the previous session was that while we may assume that there are challenges of the private sector stepping in, there are a large number of startups who want to participate in the defense sector. And since I do independent consulting also, I've been approached by a number of people, companies which are in other sectors, not in defense, but see it as a sector to get into for the long term, now wish to get into this domain. There are some challenges, which I said can be addressed. And as you understand that now the defense procurement manual has also been amended over the years. And we have a clause of IDDM, Indian Designed, Developed and Manufactured.
Right.
Certain cases in type 1, you have the strategic partners for your primary platforms to come forward and manufacture. And in type 2 is where the industry comes forward, invests its money with some support from the government.
Right.
Now, this is the easiest way for the private sector to come in. However, there are challenges in this type 2 also, which means that when you go through the process of designing and developing a product which the defense services require, you can only benefit from it if the government of India or the Ministry of Defense places an order on you for the same. We have seen this IDDM come into place way back, I think in 2015-16. Now we're in 2021. Number of people came forward, but due to this clause, which has its challenges of not assured orders, is what is seen as an entry barrier by the private sector into the defense sector. On the other hand, for participating in tenders which are there are restrictive clauses which are put in by the government, and correctly so, to ensure that no fly-by-night operators come in and try and take an order away. But at the same time, it is also to not disallow genuine companies which want to participate. So clauses which are restricting the financial issues, timelines of existence, ownership of plant and machinery. Today, everybody is wanting to be smart. He doesn't want to buy some piece of land worth crores of rupees and set up a plant and machinery there where he can possibly lease it at a much cheaper cost and review his relocation if required a few years later. Now, this is something which people don't really talk about, but I think needs to be highlighted. And it has to be promulgated so that it reaches the right ears, so that the government amend its laws. And to amend laws, as you are aware, the government sets up a committee, the committee will meet, committee will decide, and whatever industry wants is what committee will deliver.
Right.
That's a fact of life.
Right. So, Murthy Saab, coming to the same point, what Chanan Saab has said, the Make in India is a challenge. We have been talking about Make in India, then there is a challenge that these foreign companies, you have been with a foreign entity in another area, but you know how the foreign entities look at the whole game. Even to start a factory in India and the infrastructure investment, generally, what happens, only certain, not the key components, but maybe the peripherals or structurals and fabrication items are made in the country. But mainly the main technology ends up importing. Even for, let's take the case of the aircraft itself, the fighter aircrafts. We have been doing this fighter aircraft manufacturing for a long time under license, whether it's with the Russians mainly, predominantly. But what we have found out that at the end of the day, the engine, the heart of it is never made here. It is made under license at times, in the case of some of the aircraft, but still we are not an engine manufacturer even now. And what happens when the heart of the system is not made? The import component almost is close to 70%, while local component could be anywhere between 30 to 40%. So now how this can change? How this can change?
Yeah, you see, any international company which would like to come into India with a technology always looks into the complete feasibility of the project and how it is going to work in terms of the business vis-a-vis the investment. What you call the return on investment, how best it will come back, and what is the time it takes for the investment it takes in place in terms of factory building or in terms of buying a land and then factory building, and will it work for them as a business? This one, that is the basic thing. Actually, what happens, that's what you have said. They will first start with the components which can be easily manufactured, for which technology and quality consciousness is available in India. That means a quality product which can come out of India, they would like to start indigenization first for that part. And the basic main part, they would like to take time before they really come to India. And also let us understand, when they want to put quality into the biggest things, what happens is, most of the time they would like to bring their own experts and make them sit in their factories for the quality control, which in turn also makes the production of cars much higher than compared to what is the cost of production with an Indian quality control manager. So these are the certain aspects which they go step by step. And at the end of the day, whoever is investing in the country would like to see his balance sheet, what he is getting, what are the order positions for next 3 years, what is the order which is coming up, and what will be the return on investment. This is what any company which is coming from outside will look into that. And when it comes to defense production specifically, who is the buyer? Buyer is nothing but the government, that is defense forces. Then they look at it, what is the assurance that I am going to get the regular orders, which Kallan Saab ne bataya tha, already in the point mein ta bataya tha, that it is very difficult to assure a government order will not give. They write in the contract, we will not assure you any orders. This is where the basic problem comes for the Make in India. And for the, if you want a technology available in India, that part also, if a private sector person is putting a factory, again he is looking at the continuous orders. He is not going to put his factory idle if there is no order and just have the overheads for this one. See, the Make in India is running through the spinning because of these points basically. How the technology comes in, if a big company comes in, how they are going to bring the technology, how they are going to indigenize it. So the moment the import component has to come down to 25 to 30%, then only Make in India will be much more effective. If your import component is still remains 60%, the Make in India is just like putting small items, nothing else. So that's where the concentration has to come up, and that's where the government has to think how they can support the private individuals in terms of manufacturing in the Make in India. And that is where the technology comes into the picture. How fast you can absorb a technology required for the defense sector. For example, if we are talking about defense, let us talk about defense. How do you absorb the technology which you are bringing from outside the country? How fast it can be absorbed, which can be converted into production. This makes a lot of big planning and a big project management required for these aspects, which of course defense people have a lot of project management knowledge. Incidentally, my own brother-in-law was in EME, Lieutenant Colonel Seshadri, who is no more. He was in EME sector. So I know a lot of things from him also. That's where I'm saying it's basically the Make in India cannot remain in a slogan. Right now we are in a slogan. Make in India is a slogan. Most of the Make in India is not happening, what we are talking about it, except our own old products and everything is happening. Example, you take hydro sector mein to, even today the turbine runners are imported, whoever is manufacturing. You got manufacturing capacities from all the manufacturers, but the runner is coming imported, including our own Indian manufacturing company, BHL, they have to import the runners. So these are the things which have to be taken into consideration when you are talking about privatization or bringing a technology from outside and making it in India. So Make in India needs a much more detailed study. And where defense, there's only one customer. That's another reason where the return on investment may not be guaranteed also. That's to be checked up again. Unless otherwise, the foreign technology person comes, puts up a factory, and also he exports from India. Then he becomes much more indigenization will happen in India. Like, for example, most of the transformer companies have brought the technology fully into India. They make it in India and export to other countries. So this is one example I'm giving from our own civilian part of it, where we are seeing the manufacturing, what is happening. In defense, Make in India to succeed, I think this is what is needed. How technology is going to absorb, how the private sector is going to absorb it, how government is going to support them. That's where if any private sector or a public sector or a MNC looks at a 3 years balance sheet always, projection of 3 years balance sheet happens everywhere. That's a must. If you are running this year plus next 2 years, you have to think of the company, how it runs. Otherwise, it cannot run any company. So this is where the Make in India requires more work in progress. It's only work in progress. It's not moving much faster.
Now taking exactly what Murthy Saab has said, here, and also earlier we talked to Colonel Saab also. See, the whole idea is Make in India is fine, but we need to give the confidence to investors. Unlike, in China, what has happened, most of the time the technology absorption is happened like an IPR violation. More of the time the IPR is violated and then it is taken up, and then the companies that have entered completely lose their intellectual property at times and they have no redressal.
Absolutely.
And such markets, it's difficult to get access to technology unless and until they violate the IPR. Now, fine, China has done because they have a certain way of doing things and it wants to become an exporter in that sense. Now, but then such IPR violated technology will never get access to the world markets. And that's what China is facing, that although it has done so much of defense acquisition, but most of it is under cloud and question. So in the sense, the buyers will be limited. In the case of India, that's an opportunity. India provides an alternate opportunity for Make in India and Make for the world. Now, if Make in India and Make for the world is the concept, then the absorption of technology and providing that comfort level to the foreign alliances or the PPP alliances, that anything that is absorbed gives an opportunity for going back from here as a low-cost center and to end up exporting to the world in the defense sector. That is the opportunity we are looking at. And I do not see a lot of work in the government in this direction. So Khazanchi Saab, why this mindset that we are not looking at a Make in India and Make for the world concept?
Unmute kar lijiye, sir.
Unmute, sir. Unmute, sir.
Unmute, sir. Unmute, sir. Sir, voice unmute kar lijiye.
Voice, sir. Voice unmute. Khazanchi Saab, your video is gone. Are you back, sir?
He's there actually. He has to unmute his voice and put on video.
You can continue by the time he comes. He's back. He's back.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Voice unmute kar dijiye, sir. Yeah.
What I have seen, is it coming now? Voice.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming, sir.
You hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay. In public sector, what I have seen, the failure is on the part of research and development. You go to any public sector company in India.
Sir, your face is
You
little
will not.
getting cut.
Hello.
थोड़ा सा आपका face ऊपर cut हो रहा है. Your face is cutting on the top. Show the video.
Now, is it okay now?
No, sir. I think आप vertically कर लीजिए क्योंकि आपका face कट रहा है. आपकी chair is on a higher level.
हाँ ठीक है, आप ठीक है.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
You know, actually what we lack is research and development.
Yeah.
I have seen all public sectors. R&D is almost nil. So in defense ordnance factories, if you see the limitation would be, there may not be anything but R&D. So once we think of these 41 units getting reshaped into 7, main thrust has to be done on research and development. Then alone you can think of the replacement for whatever is imported. And also we'll have to depend on the vendors, the way we do in other sectors. We depend on vendors. As Murthy sir was just now telling, we have BHL importing runners still for the turbines, Right. So why should that happen? They have offloaded lot of equipment to private sector, smaller vendors. Nobody is there to do the parts we still get from abroad. Why has it happened? That means R&D is missing. Over all this, BHL is not today's. And they are not doing turbines for the fight. Why they haven't been able to do it? So it has to be thought very seriously. A public sector cannot, private sector cannot do things overnight. They will also do it. Either you import the technology, pay for it, and use it, or you have your own R&D and have a balance also. I think that should be working.
Right, sir. So, Khazanchi sir, I have same question. See what happened when you talked about BHL, some power sector experiences can go to the, the defense sector also. For example, whether it is BHL or any maker, in India, we don't make the forgings. Forgings are mostly imported either from Russia, China. The shafting, basically, the center of the whole thing is imported from Korea, from Japan, from Germany, from United States. And this is what it is all about. And even the Chinese are making. We don't have a mega forging making factory. So Colonel Saab is back. So I want to address this question now, that when we are not making certain key components in this country and we end up importing the heart of certain equipment and technology. So we have a challenge. At the end of the day, to actually indigenize. Because if we are not indigenizing the core, we are always in trouble because we are dependent on the supplies from overseas for the core technology or for a core resource. I gave the example of forgings in the power sector. Because the turbine, BTGs, the boiler turbine generator machinery, we end up importing the forgings. So, Colonel Saab, is tarah ki problem to we will also have in the defense sector. Yes, Colonel Saab.
Haji, you're right. You see, there are challenges of getting technology and there are issues which are addressed in all our deals that are signed.
Right.
Now, if you were to look at all the deals that have been signed since independence till date, there is also an offset clause which was there in each deal, which was never ensured. Okay. Now, there are millions or billions of dollars of offset money which is due to us, which in the last year plus, if you notice, all OEMs have spent very happily in getting equipment which helped us fight the pandemic. Okay.
Right.
Now the same money is actually in the banks in their home countries, which is earning interest and which is increasing their cash flows. It is not helping our cash flows.
Right.
When you talk to the foreign OEMs here and say that you owe us offsets, why don't you bring in technology and set up plant here? He says, I will invest my offset money in the manner I think is best. You need to get your industry to get up and gear up to meet the challenges, to meet our requirements. Okay?
Right.
Now, when you review the clause of the IDDM, that is India Designed, Developed and Manufactured clauses, there are two sub-clauses within that also. If design has been done abroad, then the content which has to be domestic has to be minimum 60% as per the bills of material.
Right.
If the design has been done within India, then you could possibly have 60% of your bills of material equipment coming in from abroad.
Right.
There are ways and means to address it. The government of India has addressed it very well. But as I again mentioned, that while all this looks very nice on paper, but when you start discussing this with the OEM, he is not willing to come forth and share it with you. If you take a look at the papers about, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, Safran has announced that it's setting up an engine plant in India.
Right.
Right. Right.
I was coming to that.
So if Safran is setting up an engine plant in India, we have been flying their aircraft since 1960s.
Absolutely.
You see, we had the Mystere that came in first, which was followed by the Mirage 2000.
Exactly.
Now we have the Rafale. Exactly. Then we have the helicopters coming in. So there are issues which people have overlooked and not addressed. If you think the cost of Rafale is justified at the price that we bought, you need to rethink again.
No, it's not possible. You are absolutely right.
You are right, sir. Right. Absolutely right.
Because there is a 205 million per plane. That is the kind of cost that is coming. We don't need a rocket science to understand this. And 95 to 100 million is the cost of the plane, Sukhoi 30, MKI. The latest version, even if we get an upgraded version, a twin engine aircraft will come at less than 100 million, sir. And you are absolutely right. There is a question.
So my thought has always been that when people say that it was India-specific modifications done, I said, you show me the GSQR where the India-specific requirements were changed. They're not there on ground.
Yes.
Secondly, just to expose to you as to how the corruption takes place in a government-to-government deal, what you do is you say that it's India-specific changes, the cost has gone up, it's a government-to-government deal, so everything is hunky-dory, there's nothing wrong, no money has been transacted. Then tell me, sir, why do we not have an RTI on foreign money coming into the coffers of various political parties?
Exactly. The FCRA
exactly, sir. That is the point. Absolutely.
They are not
so when you circulate the money through the defense deal and get money back into your coffers because you can't put it under RTI, you know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
This raises
these are some facts of life which I think need to be told to the government and the politicians that you may be very smart, but we are neither stupid.
Exactly.
Absolutely, sir. Exactly, absolutely. Sir. Nailed the point.
So
you nailed the point.
Now, having stated this so openly and candidly,
yes, sir,
you will find as to what is the challenge as to why domestic development does not take place. Let me give you another example, which I even gave last time.
Right, sir.
Our artillery guns were developed within the country. We tested them, we fired them, we did everything.
Yes.
But now we go and give the order to Israel to supply to us.
What is the basis? There's absolutely no basis.
So today what we are saying is, or what I sort of advocate to all the others is, whether we look at the Arjun tank, which came after maybe 40 years, or the Tejas Mark 1 came after 30 years, let it be.
Yeah.
Fight with it. In any case, you've been fighting with whatever you had.
Exactly.
You had nothing.
Absolutely.
You had nothing fantastic in your hands to fight with earlier. If with 1965 war, we could fight with World War II vintage tanks and yet knock out the Pakistani tanks.
Yeah.
I think it
and
speaks
that's
for
the pattern
itself.
tanks, the latest. The pattern tanks were the latest at the time.
Yeah.
So now, subsequent to that, you come to 1971 was slightly better because probably we had a maverick of a chief who could walk up to the Prime Minister's office and demand what he wanted. But since then, today the chief probably, is promoted because if he follows certain guidelines. So while we tend to be very nationalistic, we talk about Atmanirbhar, Make in India. I think as Mr. Murthy very correctly said, these are fancy slogans to talk about in social parties, where you want to impress the political and the businessman and tell your foreign competitor that how hard you're working in becoming Atmanirbhar. I will share an article with you, which I received from another group. It talks about how this fallacy of Atmanirbhar is just a fraud and there are no easy solutions for it. Easy solutions are not there because, firstly, even as an industry, we are all traders.
Yeah.
We don't like to manufacture. What Mr. Murthy also very correctly said, and Mr. Khajansi also said, the R&D aspect is something which is negligible in our country. Nobody wants to spend money on R&D. We may say so that we are the pharmacy of the world. Tell me, sir, which is the API that is being used in the vaccine that is manufactured in India?
Absolutely. It's almost 90% important.
Absolutely.
So when you have to win votes, you have to go to the cow belt, where the average fellow is very happy to talk about all other factors other than what we are speaking about, which would actually bring in a change for everyone around. If we are encouraging people to say that you set up a shop and maybe sell tea and pakoras, I don't think India can really progress if that's the mindset. And if that is what we propagate in our Man Ki Baat and other things, whichever happens, point is we need to skill up our education. We need to make sure that R&D happens. We also need to ensure that all the companies that are being set up and who genuinely qualify, without getting into the politics of it, need to be encouraged. They'll do very well. If you look at today, the Tatas, I think in their collaborations with Boeing and Airbus both, they are doing very well in the composite plants in Bangalore and also at Hyderabad.
For sure.
No, point is that is Tata the only guy in India who looks at India to where he wants to invest for nationalistic reasons? Why don't we have the other big two guys also doing the same walk the talk?
Absolutely. There are the Mahindras, there are the L&Ts, there are the couple of good companies which are also already there in competition. I can at least name the L&T and the, as I told you, the L&T is definitely, L&T Defense is definitely prepared to do a better job. Mahindra is definitely in a position. So you're right, Colonel Saab.
So
and for the multi-terrain vehicle, I saw even DCM Shriram doing well. I met them in the Defense Expo and I saw for multi-terrain vehicles, there were many parties, about 5 or 6 of them who could do a good job, including Ashok Leyland. So as you rightly said, I just rattled off these names so that we are no pushover country. We have good private sector which can participate in the whole game.
Yeah, so another issue which I think somebody mentioned about WAIC is, I think you asked Mr. Khajanchi that if it's make in India, it's or why not for make it for the world?
Exactly.
The answer to that is when if you want to sell arms and ammunition to anybody globally, they first want to understand that are your defense forces buying them themselves or not.
Exactly.
Now, when it comes to BrahMos and others, our integrated missile system, there are orders. Even in the various meetings that I've attended with the defense procurement cell in MOD, they are very quick on their feet to say that, yes, if you manufacture and you have an export order, you apply to us, we have to take a clearance from the MOD, we'll give it to you, that's not a problem.
Right, sir.
And that is the only way that you can survive, because if you think that you can only supply to one customer, that is the government of India, you cannot be surviving on the profits that you will make.
Right.
So your avenues have to be opened up. You have to be able to supply to the global market. And you can only supply to the global market if you are able to have your testing facilities at the international level.
Right.
Today, like I told you about my visit to Warangaon in Maharashtra.
Right.
When I was sitting with the general manager and having a cup of tea because he didn't want me to see his plant, and he knew that I had a restriction of time. So I was being plied with endless number of cups of tea, but I could see the board behind him which stated on what he was producing each day. So the ammunition we were going to talk to him about was the 12.7 mm NSVT ammunition that is fired from the tank.
Right.
So I told him, I said, I don't see anything on your board which says that you're manufacturing this. He said, no, we're still importing it. I said, why are you still importing it if you can manufacture it?
Right.
The answer is that they cannot ensure the quality control that was of the desired result. Now, having been on tanks myself, I'm talking about the period of 2002 to 2005.
Right.
The T-72 tank has a rotary belt under its fighting compartment, which contains live ammunition. So when we used to fire a particular ammunition called the high explosive anti-tank from the main gun, so once the round was discharged, burning debris would fall into the tank, within the tank, which could have caused explosions and unlimited amount of deaths all around. Now, because it was peacetime, you could put in Hessian cloth, wet it and put Hessian cloth inside to prevent a fire. But imagine if you had gone to war those days, we would have had more casualties because of our own ammunition than because of the enemy.
Right.
So when such things happen, that's the time when I initially started in the first session also. I said, this is a good step to move forward, because the person who's manufacturing this ammunition and the person who's certifying it is not at the end where he's going to suffer any crisis because of that ammunition.
Right. So with this, I think we are almost at the fag end of our show. I just want Khajanchi Saab's last point and then I will wind up. 30 seconds for Khajanchi Saab. Khajanchi Saab there?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, 30 seconds, sir. And then I have to wind up.
You hardly 2 minutes left over.
Yeah. Are you there, Khajanchi Saab?
Yes. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, 30 seconds for you, sir. Last word.
We have seen R&D in this discussion with you. I have seen that R&D needs to be given topmost priority, and we have scientists in India who can do it, we have students, young students who can get into this as a profession and prove very well. So according to me, the stress at this time has to be, see, about procurements and the clauses of contracts. That is all business, but certainly technology would be the most important and most important part of the business also, because it costs a lot of money. So we should be doing as much as possible and without wasting a single day. Right now, not that then any general manager will say that 12.7 I am not able to do because the quality is not good. Why shouldn't the quality be good? Why he is not be able to do it? So basically, what I see is research, development, and quality assurance. Two important things in this sector. Things will definitely evolve. Then you go to private sector, public, private, anything will work.
Right. So with that, I think we come to the fag end of this show today. We had a wonderful discussion in this take on tooth-to-tail preparedness for deterrence in the defense sector. Thank you to all the guests, Lieutenant Colonel Manoj Chanan. We had K. Shri Kumar in the earlier stage, R.N. Khazanchi Saab, and PVSN Murthy Saab. And we come back with another great topic on this continuing discussions on the defense sector on my show, Professor Iyer's Enfra Show. In the meantime, goodbye, namaskar, Shabba Khair. See you again. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, co-panelists. Bye.